Yeah, so today we're going to demonstrate a rotator cuff repair using Ossio. The one upside that Ossio carries over every manufacturer in the current setting is the ability to be biointegrative, the ability to have the anchor have full integration into bony architecture and healing without any evidence that you've been there or without any hardware being present at that time point. So here's a good example of a full thickness rotator cuff tear that's small in nature. So you can see, if you again look down there, you can see it's been decorticated. You could actually see the subchondral surface there. So now I'm going to have my tech hand me the awl, which is actually comes with the Ossio anchor. It's a 475 awl. Keep going till the black line comes down. Now, really important right there. You see those flat globules coming out? If you're ever concerned on whether your anchor is in good bone or not, if you see those flat globules, that tells you you're down in the marrow and you have good purchase. This second part, it's really important when you take out this awl. You can see I'm coming out with 2 fingers, pretty easy to come out. I'm not worried, I don't need to tap. I put in north of 100 anchors of this manner, and based on these parameters, understanding that the need to tap is very minimal in this setting. Even though I went a little past the first thread, it's really important. If you don't go past the first thread, often the material will spin. Because it's so robust in nature, you need to actually engage it in bone. And now you're going to hold the paddle here, and you're just slowly going to advance. And again, you're going to see the white paddle come down. You're going to see the suture stay in the same manner. And if you listen really closely, you'll actually hear the cortical squeaks coming through from the purchase. We're going to open up the stay suture. We're going to unload the tapes off the wheel. So the easiest way to unload this anchor is to actually push the green wheel off. And it kind of comes off like a thimble in an easy manner. So now what you can see is you can see the tapes here well locked in. You can see this. You can often do what I call a tug test, where you pull the patient to the side to make sure. Remember, the tapes are static, they're loaded in, but the stay suture is a slide suture, so let me show you my technique of what I would do in this setting. So I'll take my first tape, I'll load it into my self-retrieving suture, I'll come in posteriorly, and I'll make a pass. And I'll show you kind of the method to my logistical thought process in that setting. So remember, this is the stay suture that can slide, and the tapes do not slide, but it's very advantageous, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Remember, my jaw gives me about a 17 millimeter advancement in that setting. So essentially what I have in my rotator cuff right now is I have 4 sutures passed. On my posterior limb, which you see nearest to our screen, is the posterior pass of the tape, and that's this suture right here. My 2 middle sutures are actually the stay sutures that slide, and I'll show you kind of over the top. See, those slide in, and those where I'm going to tie medially, and that's going to give me my compression on my cuff, and then my anterior limb is a stay suture there. And your thought is, well, why do I have 4 passes? And I'll give you my thought process to give this cuff complete compression at time 0. So now what I'll do is I'll actually take a 1/2 inch, and I'll come up here, and I'll actually throw sliding 1/2 inches here. And I think sometimes people forget to tie arthroscopic knots, but I think there's an art to it. I think a lot of us who believe in full compression medially will like to tie knots. So here I'm going pass point on my medial row. You can see my knot pressure coming in, tying with pass point. We're getting nice compression on the footprint. You can already see the rotator cuff coming down on the medial side really nicely. And I like to throw 3 to 5 1/2 inches. Let me just show you the cuff on that setting so you can see the compression right there at the point. You can clearly see it's down at that point. So now what we have is we have compression at the apex of the rotator cuff tear. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 lateral anchors to get dynamic and a wider footprint for fixation. So here's a punch coming in. Okay, so now we're down to the black line. What I would do is load this up into the anchor body. and this is one thing that I've really learned helps me kind of navigate the osteo anchor, is I'll come in, I know there's no soft tissue bridge because both sutures are coming towards the eyelet. Very important. The other trick to do is because it's a punch anchor, I actually leave the eyelet in, I use my left hand, I am right-handed, I'll use my left hand, I'll slowly twist that back and forth. And then what I do is once I get that back out all the way, this eyelet is right there to come in and take the spot of it where I'm not having to look for that hole. Okay, so now you can see the body coming down. You're going to see my tension coming up. So I'm going to put on the tape first. You can see the tape being cleated, and I'll cleat that down. And now the stay suture coming in. You can see that under compression. Okay, so remember, once I like this in this position, I'll actually mallet in a couple more threads, like the tension, and then I'll advance the anchor. Okay, perfect. There we go. Okay, hold on right there. Pull a little bit of tension on each suture. You can see the nice compression taking place. You can see the sutures coming in really nicely here. You can see a double row transosseous equivalent. Now I don't need the stay sutures. Now if I wanted the stay sutures and I wanted to do something in this space, I could. I can unclean my stay sutures, slide that back out, and I'll do my cut. So here's a very good view. You can see the tape posteriorly here. You can see the O suture in between tied, and you can see the anterior footprint. You can see how it's really compressing down anterior posterior. You got a really nice compression. You have no dog ears here, and the nice part about that is you can use the tape to avoid the dog ears, and then you use a stay suture to get compression medially, and then you get full compression with the tapes anterior and posterior. And now you have your transosseous equivalent rotator cuff repair with the anchors being biologic in nature.